Welcome to the Amplify Your Voice with Dr. Megan Bruiners podcast. This podcast is for prophetic women in business who are called to write, publish, and influence lives with their message. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Bruiners, and this is a space for obedience, alignment, and stewardship. Take a deep breath and settle in as we share real stories from women of faith from across the globe. Let's begin. How many of you have been overthinking the publishing process? How many of you have delayed launching your book because you first want to figure out all the steps before you start? I want to just encourage someone today and say that you can launch with grace and you don't have to grind your way to the finish line. Hi, I'm your host, Dr. Megan Bruiners, and in this episode, I'll be having an authentic conversation about prophetic publishing. So what is prophetic publishing? Simply put, it is co-creating and being in partnership with God throughout the process. It's about being on His timeline and not on our own timeline. And I will be speaking about what it looks like to merge the spiritual while executing strategy. So you are more creative than you give yourself credit for. Do you believe me when I say that? So not only do you need to trust God throughout the publishing process, but you also need to trust yourself so that you can keep your momentum. So if you are listening to this podcast, you are a pioneer, you're a trailblazer, and you are a kingdom builder, and God needs you in the vineyard. He needs you in the marketplace. It is not by chance that you are listening to this. This is your divine appointment. I want to share with you real quick just how I started in publishing. I published my very first book in 2020 through a local publisher, and at the time, I didn't know anything about publishing. I wrote my book, Unmasking Purpose. I shared about overcoming approval addictions. And the publisher took me through all the steps. And I was like, okay, this is great. I've got support. I've got someone to show me exactly what it is that needs to be in place. I had someone to edit the book. I had someone to format the book. So really, I didn't have to spin my wheels. I didn't have to try and figure out, okay, what needs to come next. The steps were basically put in place. But after that, I started getting curious and I was like, okay, just imagine if I could share my story, how many other women, how many other men, how many other purpose-driven leaders are out there that's sitting on their giftings, that's sitting on their story, that have a story to tell, because I'm very passionate about listening to people's stories because it's so quick to judge. It's so quick to just look at someone and say, this is the type of person that they are. I'm always intentional to listen to their conversations and to find out what happened. Who said what? What was a defining moment? Maybe it's a coach in me, but what was a defining moment for this person to have made this decision where they are now on a detour, trying to find their way back, trying to get back into alignment with God? Something happened. Most times and often, it always comes back to, choosing kingdom over culture, making a decision to put cultures down that is in contradiction to the word of God, that's not biblical, or it doesn't serve their purpose or serve the next season that they need to step into. So it's so important to, know who you are, know your identity, because before you can master anything, before you can amplify your authority, before you can amplify your voice, you need to be secure in who you are. Like I shared, I published my book, my very first book, and then after that, I joined a multi-author book project, which was an international book project led by another visionary author in the US. And I said yes. I was the only author at the time from South Africa, so that was exposure. But for those of you that have listened to my introduction episode, you would have heard that I mentioned that I flew all across the globe in my career as a flight attendant. So I got exposed to different countries, nations, language, culture, and all the things. So it wasn't something new. It was just me serving in another capacity. I was just reminded that the Lord used even that career as a pit stop for me and as training ground because he knew where he was leading me to. So I found myself now transitioning into coaching and writing more books. So the multi-author I joined, and then after the multi-author, I started curating my own multi-author books. And my very first one was called Just Say No. And in there, we spoke about healthy boundaries that we need to set, not just as business leaders, but in all capacities, in a personal capacity. Because if we are going to fulfill the call of God in our lives, we need to put boundaries in place and we need to have non-negotiables. So I went on that journey. I didn't hold back. There was no plan B for me to go back into the workforce. So I unapologetically showed up. I was bold, even though I didn't know all the steps. I'm a first-time entrepreneur. Well, I started my business in 2017. That's a travel business, but as a coach, it was a new environment for me. What I meant to say was I'm a first generation entrepreneur. So there was no template. There was no blueprint as to how I needed to build out the business. So I trusted God. I trusted him wholeheartedly. And I just made a decision that I will be partnering with him in my business. So I started implementing kingdom principles in my business as well. When I journey with authors, we use kingdom principles and use scripture as foundation, just making sure that they understand who they are, who they've been called to, what their purpose is, what spiritual gifts they flow in. Because if you are not clear on those things, you are going to be looking at people where you go into comparison. You're going to be following scripts from gurus that's making 7 and 8 figures, and you're not seeing that investment in your own business. So you need to make sure that you first and foremost need to unlock your own potential. You need to unlock your own creativity and then build accordingly. So I wanted to share with you just about my client, Denise. If you listened to episode 1, you would have heard a testimony. She was sharing about how she was so surprised when her book ranked as a best-selling book on Amazon. But there's always a behind the scenes. There's always, a message behind the accolade and behind the success. We're not just building to build our own empires, but we are doing what we are doing because we are influencing lives and transforming it for His glory. So in the previous episode, Denise Sutton shared how her book reached bestseller, and then also following a simple formula that was given to her. She mentioned that she went ahead of God because of the old scripts and blueprints she was still trying to hold on to. But it's only when she let go that she experienced her breakthrough. So I want you to just think about that and even just reflect on your own life or your own journey, your writing journey, or where you find yourself. Some of you listening in may be writing your first book. Some of you may be looking for a publisher and you're not sure exactly route you want to go. But just using her as an example, when we work alongside our authors like Denise, and we equip them with our bestseller strategies, which positions them to amplify the message and authority during the marketing campaign. We also understand that every author has a unique way of showing up and expressing their creativity, and this is where they hone into their spiritual gifts and follow his lead. So there is a fine line between being too over spiritual because of analysis paralysis. I'm sure if you're a believer in business, if God gives an idea, it takes another level of faith to actually execute it as well. So we need to be so careful that we don't over spiritualize when it comes to investing money in programs or coaches, whatever the case may be, when you know that God has already given you the green light. So there's definitely a difference between being too over spiritual and then moving by faith. So if you know that there's a decision that you need to make, whether it's you need to get the book done, but you're just never moving forward because either you don't feel ready that you can start, or you feel that, you're going to really have to tighten the budget because you need to spend the money. There's a way around it for sure. I will be speaking more about that on the podcast. You need to have a profit plan in place. You're not just going to be just publishing books. You need strategy, right? You need a profit plan. So I've seen many leaders shy away from marketing the message and getting visible, when indeed it is the lifeline of our businesses. So as prophetic women in business, we need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So if you know that you're in the process of writing your book, You may be considering your options on who to publish with or how much you're willing to spend so that you can see your return of investment. I would encourage you to do your research first. You don't want to end up with a low quality book or where you find there's so many grammar issues. Maybe you publish it with the grammar issues and now you have to, when you need to now republish it or make another edition, which forces you now to spend more money fixing the mistakes. So I've lost count of how many women of faith I've spoken to that had bad experiences and are now overthinking their steps. So instead of you having to republish the book, put out another edition, pay extra for editing, pay extra for formatting, you want to make sure that you make the right decision. You want to make sure that whoever you are partnering with is a good fit. This is where the prophetic publishing comes in. This is where you will be, sitting with God and, asking Him, Lord, which direction you want me to go. I will be sharing just 3 quick steps at the end of this episode, how you will be able to get back into alignment so that you can make the right decision going forward. So things to consider when you are self-publishing. I want to speak on this because I've been on some websites or I've spoken to authors that have self-published. And then when you click on the website, the first thing that you see is you can see by looking at the cover, it's been created by someone that's not necessarily an expert in cover design, but it was maybe created in Canva. This person is building a brand. So the first thing is that you see is the cover. And then, of course, you want to look at the back of the book. So you want to make sure that you hire an expert. So if you are building a brand, I wouldn't recommend editing or formatting your book if you're not an expert in it. And then, of course, if your book cover, if the summary at the back of your book or chapter titles are not captivating, no one will pick up your book. If you opt in for self-publishing and you're doing all the things and you're doing everything, you miss the blind spots. Like you can only see what you see in front of you. So if someone else comes and they can give you critique or they can give you advice, you know how to improve, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you serve your community with excellence. One thing that we also need to remember is that as thought leaders or as authors, as women of faith in business, we are not called to write to everyone. It would be in your best interest to focus on a specific audience while speaking to their needs. So remember, part of the reason why you may not be able to sell your book or you are struggling with the promotion or the marketing of it is you are speaking to everyone and there's no specific audience that you are speaking to. It's also important that even as you are writing that you have this person in mind so that you speak to their problem, you speak to their need and you can provide a solution. I think I reached out to someone on LinkedIn once and then I spoke about building out a signature offer from their book. I'm mentioning this because when we say signature offer, I then explained to her basically what that means is even while you are writing the book, you are including lessons, you are including your proven method. Like, what is your proven framework? If you can get that down while you are writing, before you even get to writing your second or third book. But if I'm speaking to leaders right now that's serving clients, that's giving them transformation, maybe you're a founder, you're a CEO, but when you are writing to your clientele, you are writing to the community, you want to make sure that your framework is inside of the book. That is going to be the best way for you to create a profitable strategy post-book launch, because what you then can do is, by the time the book gets launched, you can turn that into a program, into a course, or into a membership. Okay. I shared that with you freely. So that's one way you can expand. If you want to learn more about how to do that, in the description, you'll be able to just see more trainings. I'm on my YouTube channel, and then you can for sure glean on those trainings. Why hiring a publishing consultant amplifies your brand? That is something that you want to look into, because if you want to self-publish your book and you're doing everything, there's things that you don't see. There's corners that we take because maybe there's not enough funds to hire the editor or the formatter at the time. Or perhaps you're not leveraging what you're doing already. If you are already serving clients and you have offers out there, there's ways for you to get income in order for you to fund the publishing, bearing in mind you have a clientele that you're already serving. what you want to be looking at is hiring a publishing consultant or hiring a team to help you to publish your book. So you still have creative control over your book, but you're hiring the experts to do the cover design, to do the formatting, to do the editing and the publishing for you. In that way, it frees up your hands to put on your executive hat and to make the decisions that you're supposed to make in the business. You don't need to think about which program or software I'm going to be using for the formatting. You have a team to do that. It won't cost you that much at the end of the day because it will save you money not going back and actually fixing all the mistakes and the errors. So you make the investment up front, and bearing in mind whoever you publish with, if they have a built-in marketing strategy, then that is a secret sauce. So like I shared, what we do is we have a 90-day marketing campaign that we include in our publishing package. And what then happens is when the authors follow that proven strategy, we obviously tweak it to their personality, their voice, their giftings. We make sure that they are comfortable promoting. We don't want to shove anything onto someone that they don't want to do. For instance, some marketing scripts will say you need to post every day, you need to post this time of the day, you need to be on all the platforms. So we have a marketing consultation with our authors and we speak to them and we ask them, okay, which platform are you on? Let's just see. Perhaps it's LinkedIn. Where are your clients actually hanging out? Are they hanging out on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? And then we make sure that it actually matches the personality or it matches the schedule or the areas that they are mastering. So we go through that entire process with our authors. It's not just about, okay, share me your manuscript and then hit the publish button. No, I'm very passionate about helping leaders, helping women of faith to step into their calling. So the book is a byproduct, but for sure, it's only the doorway. It's only one step towards where God is leading them. So that is why prophetic publishing is so powerful. So if you've ever felt that you're still battling with emotional soul wounds or there's still residue of wrong decisions that you've made in the past, I want to just say to you, He wants to heal you. I just felt so strong to share this, especially on this episode, that God is in the business of healing people. So what happened to you was not in vain. He wants you to share your life lessons with others. That is why you are here. I'm reminding you again, that is why you're listening to this podcast. What incident, what event, what moment caused you to either go into hiding or to mute your voice? It is time now for you to step up. It is time for you to rise up. It is time for you to unmute your voice and to do the things that He has called you to do. So I want to share 3 ways with you to get back into alignment. The first one is get back into the secret place and ask the Lord which areas you've been out of alignment. You can get into a still place, get your journal out, get a pen out, and just start writing to God and listen to what He says to you. But you need to get still. It will only happen when you get still. Not in your busyness, not in the overthinking, not in trying to figure things out on your own. Only when you get still. Making time for Him, putting Him back where He belongs, not idolizing our feelings, not idolizing our emotions, not idolizing work, not idolizing our relationships, but putting Him back where He belongs, which is first place in our lives. That is when the alignment begins. The second one is shift your perspective and release words or labels others have placed on you so that your decisions are not based on pleasing people. There's many women of faith in business right now that's watering down their message on social media so that they can fit in to popular spaces, whether it is approval addiction, whether it is, blending in. And I want to say to you that that is not who God designed you to be. He's setting you apart. He's calling you out from places and groups, whether it is Facebook groups, whether it's WhatsApp groups, whether it is, rooms you're not supposed to be into, whether it's speaking platforms. He wants to set you apart. But you need to go into a time of consecration and actually do the things that is asked of you. The last instruction that He gave you. It's so easy to get into God's way. It's so easy to launch challenges and masterclasses. It's so easy to write devotionals and prayer journals instead of our testimony because it's safe, because it's comfortable and because it's easy. I know many that's writing devotionals and prayer journals when God actually instructed them to write their personal story in a nonfiction book. Okay, that's the second one. And the third and the last one is 3 ways to get back into alignment is to embrace your calling unapologetically. Being bold, being courageous, and sharing your message with the world. You're not getting visible because you're being ambitious. You're not getting visible because you want to push your own agenda. You are getting visible because you are giving glory to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So we are not leaning into false humility when we are writing books and we are not promoting it, but we are stepping out in obedience. Thank you for listening to the Amplify Your Voice with Dr. Megan Bruiners podcast. Take what resonated with you, sit with it, and pray into it. If you feel led to support this mission and feel more spirit-led conversations, you can support this podcast by buying me a coffee. The link is in the description. In the upcoming episodes, we'll be talking all things prophetic publishing, building author brands, and legacy platforms. Until next time, keep showing up in obedience. And remember, when you mind His business, He takes care of your business.